This is Vader Reviews. We are honored that you would join us. Last weekend, I said the Ahsoka series didn't interest me, and I didn't feel like watching the rest of it. But then, clips of Anakin Skywalker fighting with his lightsaber started popping up on the interwebs, so I am altering the deal. After losing her fight with Count Dooku, turns out Ahsoka is only mostly dead. So it's up to me as my younger, more handsome self to teach her one final lesson as her master and complete her training. The lesson: to let go of her guilt and fear that her legacy is one of death, and finally, to regain the will to live. What's my teaching method, you may ask? A crash course in aggressive introspection, or introspection with a lightsaber. Now, I've always loved the saber duels in the prequels, and after all these years, Hayden Christensen is still the very best with a lightsaber. In fact, at times it's very obvious he's holding himself back. However, this clear difference in skill serves the story well, reminding Ahsoka and the audience that he is the master. One of the many things I enjoyed about this episode were the Clone Wars era flashbacks, and seeing Anakin as a war hero. The visuals were haunting and atmospheric, seeing clone troopers appearing and disappearing in the fog of war. And I know with how much I enjoyed it, if you grew up loving the Clone Wars series, you were probably losing your mind during this whole part of the episode. Now, if you've been watching the channel for any amount of time, it's no secret I'm not the biggest fan of the Clone Wars cartoon, or Ahsoka for that matter. In fact, my only solace when I first saw the character was, well, at least Order 66 is right around the corner.
What?
But this episode achieved something I thought was impossible. It made me actually like Ahsoka. I thought the girl who played the young version of Ahsoka did an amazing job. She was also better with a lightsaber than her senior counterpart. Now, did I only like this episode because Anakin was in it? Maybe. I am a sucker for a good lightsaber twirl, because as everyone knows, spinning's a good trick. But more than that, it's great to see Hayden Christensen return to the role after all these years, and finally get the respect he deserves. Seeing the outpouring of love towards him from the Star Wars fanbase is truly refreshing, particularly after all the hate he and George Lucas endured when the prequels were first released. Back to the episode. After Ahsoka's final lesson is complete, and she has regained the will to live, she's fished out of the drink by some rebel pilots, guided by Hera's Force-sensitive son, who senses Ahsoka's presence. But the episode's not quite over yet. We knew they were going to bring the hyperspace whales into this series eventually, and sure enough, at the end of the episode,
Admiral, there be whales here!
Just before the fantastical beasts jump into hyperspace, Ahsoka pulls a Jonah and hitches a ride in the belly of the whale. Jonah? You know, like Jonah and the whale, like in the Old Testament?
Did you guys ever go to Sunday school?
Now, I know everyone's expecting me to be Darth Vader about this, and say you shouldn't watch any of the new Star Wars and all that, because we're living in very divisive times, where you have to either love everything or hate everything. There's no in-between. But I'm reminded of the quote from Star Trek: The Next Generation, where Captain Picard says, "Eventually, hate becomes comfortable like old leather. And when you hate something long enough, eventually, you can't remember feeling anything else." And it's true, hate consumes you eventually, and saps all of the joy out of your life. And that's just not how I am. There are certain things that I really don't enjoy, and when it comes to the sequel trilogy,
I hate them!
but I'm not going to hate everything outright. I just don't watch the stuff I don't like. But if there's something that looks interesting to me, I'll go ahead and check it out, just to give it a chance. The way I look at Star Wars is simple. George Lucas's original 6 films are like a good meal. It's all you really need, and you are comfortably full afterwards. And then, if you want a little sweet dessert that's not really that good for you, the Ewok adventure films are a pretty good time, if you like Ewoks as much as I do. When it comes to the rest of the Star Wars shows or films, however, I see that more like a buffet. If you want to go back for more because Star Wars tastes good, you can just pick and choose over the rest of the stuff that's there. You don't have to eat all of it, or any of it for that matter. Just the tasty bits you like. And for me personally, this episode was pretty tasty indeed. I really enjoyed it, but if you didn't, that's okay too. For me, it was just great seeing Hayden Christensen again. I enjoyed the lightsaber duels, and I really liked seeing the Clone Wars era flashback and the dynamic between Anakin and Ahsoka. But those are my thoughts on it. This has been Vader Reviews. Until next time, may the Force be with you all.